welcome to session 4 of Cannabis Licensing 101. Today we will be discussing business planning, marketing rules, and regulations. If there's any technical difficulties or you have any questions, please feel free to pop that into the chat, and I will do my best to address them questions throughout the next hour and any technical issues immediately. I'm just going to wait another 30 seconds to a minute to give everyone a chance to log on, and then we will proceed. Okay, so let's just hop right into it. Again, I am Marie Sweeney. I work with cannabis license experts in their sales department, and as well I just act as a general advisor for cannabis industry as a whole. So today, unfortunately, our guest speaker from she's working from Scarlet Consulting is unable to join us today due to unforeseen circumstances, but we will touch lightly on marketing rules and regulations towards the end of today's session. And then we will send out a date for a rebook in the coming weeks, just to get her very valuable insights. Okay. Hello, Benjamin. Welcome from SoCal. Glad to see you join us today. So getting into what topics we'll be discussing today, we're going to look at business plan basics, operational plan basics, financial plan considerations, potential challenges that you may come across, as well as marketing and advertising rules and restrictions. Okay, so we're going to start with some general definitions that you are going to see throughout your application process and as you prepare to launch your business. We're going to start with a small business. That is an owner-managed business with fewer than 100 employees. New ventures are recently formed organizations opened within the last 12 months and that sell goods and or services. Entrepreneurship, the process of identifying and capitalizing on a marketplace opportunity. An entrepreneur, a person who recognizes and seizes opportunities. An intrapreneur is someone who creates something new within an existing larger organization. Sole proprietorship is a business owned by an individual. A partnership is a formal agreement made by two or more parties to jointly manage and operate a company. A corporation is a legally established business that can own assets and incur debts. And then a cooperative is a democratically controlled by their member owners. And unlike a traditional business, each member has his or her voice in how the business is run. Okay, so what is the definition of a business plan? A business plan is a written summary of an entrepreneur's proposed business venture, the marketing and financial details of the proposed business venture, the marketing opportunities and strategy, the manager's skills and abilities. A business plan is also one of the best insurance policies that you can have against launching a business destined to fail or being mismanaged. To know if your business plan meets the requirements, it should pass these 3 tests. One is a reality test. This test proves that the market really exists for your product and service, and that you can actually build and operate for the estimated costs outlined in your plan. Sounds reasonable. A competitive test. A company's position relative to its competitors. And the organization's management's ability to create a company that will gain an advantage over its rivals. And then finally, you want to ensure that you conduct a value test, that your venture offers investors, not inventors, investors and or lenders an attractive rate of return or a high probability of repayment. Okay, so why are we going to take the time to create a business plan? While a business plan doesn't guarantee success, it does increase your chances of succeeding in business. You must have one to approach venture capitalists, angel investors, or banks. They aren't going to talk to you without knowing what your plan is and how you plan on spending their money. It can also be used to attract lenders and investors who will provide the needed startup capital. And it acts as a roadmap that will serve to guide you through unfamiliar, harsh, and dangerous territories as you launch your business. Okay, so what are the key elements in a business plan? We have a cover page, a table of contents, your executive summary, a company description, a description of products and services, a marketing plan, an operating plan, an introduction to the management team, your financial plan, and any supporting details and appendices. Okay, so let's start with an executive summary. An executive summary is a written version of your elevator pitch and provides an overview of your project, a description of your current business or business idea, as well as a simple explanation of your activities. Talk about your project objectives. Include the nature of your project, the opportunity along with timelines and revenue targets. A business description. Include what solutions you provide your customers or intended customers and how your company will fit into the current market and where you're located on this planet. Products and services. What do you intend on selling? People need to know this. Financial needs. How much money do you need and how do you plan on using these funds once they are acquired? Who are the key people? So who are the main players on your team? What do they bring to the table? And what are their responsibilities going to be within your organization? And then a risk assessment and contingency plan, also known as a SWOT assessment, where you analyze strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and then outlining how you intend to monitor, measure, and to respond to all of these areas. Okay, and then we're going to get into our business description. In here, some questions to ask yourself to make sure that you're providing the correct information is: what solutions will your business provide? Where do you fit into the industry? What are your major initiatives? And where are you located? Following your business description will be your mission, vision, and value statements. So when developing these, let's think of some good questions to ask yourselves. So what's your mission statement? What does your organization do? And what solutions do you provide? Your vision statement. What are your goals? And what are your future goals? And values. Describe what your company culture is and offer insight into what customers and consumers can expect in dealings with you and your product and or organization. Okay, so now we're going to get into some industry overview and trends. When looking at this, think about who you're presenting your business plan to and assume that they know nothing about the cannabis industry or whatever industry you're writing a business plan for. So when you're asking yourself what questions to use to fill out an industry overview or industry trends for the upcoming years, what's happening in the industry and in the market, and how do you intend to sell into it? Is there an increasing demand for your proposed products or services? And could potential regulatory changes, taxation structures, and trade laws impact your business, and how? A couple questions with that last one or points is Health Canada is currently undergoing a regulatory review right now. Keeping up to date with what we're hearing as a result of that will allow you to adapt your business plan to potential changes. Taxation structure. Anybody working in cannabis knows that taxation is a huge barrier to profit margins. And again, during the review that's ongoing right now, they are revisiting that excise tax. Whether or not they're going to change it will be for them to decide, but it is a potential evolution in our industry that could impact your bottom dollar. And then, are we expecting any changes to major laws around the world? I know a lot of Canadian companies started putting out product assuming that the US would come on board with federal legalization quicker than it has. And not all of them have adapted that business plan to the fact that it is taking a little longer for that to happen. So our cross-border trade is very limited at the moment. Then we're going to look at technological trends, if they're applicable. But let's face it, we all use apps, we all use computers, we're all responsible for seed to sale software. So yes, this is something you are going to be looking into. So ask yourself what technology you're going to be using and how do you maintain it? This could be your security systems, this could be your seed to sale software, this could be HR software, tons of things that this could apply to. Fertigation systems, even. And then do you have a plan for addressing new technology trends in the industry and as they evolve? And then how do your suppliers and customers use technology, and will your operations be compatible? So say you're selling bulk flower, having seed to sale software that can communicate with your customers is a beautiful bonus. Having an app that can potentially help outreach to potential consumers or bud tender education is a wonderful thing to have as well. So consider how technology can affect your business as well as back-end processes, hiring, supply chain. Just think of every step of your business and how technology, something you have to turn on or reach for, will affect that aspect of your business. Okay, continuing on. Again, we're pretending that the people reading this plan don't know much about the industry. So you're going to want to provide an overview of current market trends. Who do you serve? How are the buying behaviors of these customers potentially changing? What new products and services are emerging to meet these changes? Here in Canada, we can all attest to the fact that we've seen a massive growth in demand for pre-rolls. And to top that off, infused pre-rolls. Massive category. People are playing catch up in that all the time right now. Okay, so then we're going to move into our target market. So who's your ideal customer? Don't just say someone who smokes cannabis. We come in various shapes, sizes, ages, interests, behaviors, everything. So take that into consideration and make sure you're speaking to who you want to be speaking to. And by doing that, you're going to be able to address their needs, and you will be considering their buying behaviors. And then finally, products and services. What do you intend to sell? How do your products and services fit within the overall industry? And how will your products and services evolve to meet changes within this industry? Okay, next, you're going to outline your acknowledgement of competition and how you will create a competitive advantage over them. Identify your competitors' strengths and weaknesses, and what types of competition that are out there. So again, think about who is your direct competition, who's selling similar products and services into your intended market. Is it all the way across Canada? Are you looking locally? What risk do they pose to your intended market share? Have we heard rumors of someone growing or expanding? Are they having challenges and downsizing? And is that downsizing due to lack of demand? Is that lack of demand for their brand as a whole? Is it to specific cultivar or product that is maybe not gaining as much market share as originally anticipated. I think beverages might be a good example of that. The ones that are doing well are doing very well, but it is a very tight market to be playing in. And then it's okay to acknowledge that your competition are doing certain things right. What are they doing right? What are you learning from that? And what are you doing to adapt to their comfort level in that category? And then we're going to look at competitive advantage. Why would a customer choose you over the competition? What's the difference about your product over the competition? And what is your unique identifier? What about your organization is going to speak to that individual customer? And what concerns are you addressing? Okay, moving through the next sections, we have customers. Everybody wants to know who you're actually going to sell your product to. So list and describe key customers. If you've already got sales agreements with certain other LPs who are looking to buy your product in bulk, if you're looking to white label, if you are selling directly to wholesalers across the country, and who are they? What is the size of their market? Are you going to be completely reliant on these, or do you have potential variations to your sales channels to be able to adapt and pivot as market changes happen? And then how are you going to diversify your customer base? Start small, think real big. And then suppliers. Who are your primary suppliers going to be? If you're a processor, have you already looked at your flower providers and ingredient providers? If you're making edibles, have you talked to packaging and made sure you've got the best options for your company, for your consumers, for the product itself, making sure that it ends up in a consumer's hand and the state it left your operation is definitely key when dealing with cannabis products. And then you're also going to look at your advertising and promotion. How are you reaching and selling to these customers? What technology and staffing resources do you have in place to support these initiatives? It's nice to say, oh, we're going to show up in every store across the province or across the country and talk to budtenders and store managers. Do you have the staff and the resources to pay for a rollout like that? And if so, how are you going to tackle it? And then never to be forgotten about is pricing and distribution. How do you price your services and products? How will you deliver these products and services? And what potential external factors could affect or alter your pricing and delivery plans? A good example of this, again, over the last few months was the challenges that we saw in BC while they were ongoing a labor strike, and how their provincially controlled wholesaling was able to pivot or not pivot, depending on how people perceive what happened out there and how it was tackled. But something like that. Or we had a breach here in Ontario and distribution had to halt for 2 weeks. Put the entire province into some very challenging situations, especially for retailers who were unable to put products on their shelves. While it has not much to do with the brand itself, we get roped into perceptions. Perceptions can have a lot to do with how we are received across the board. So always think about what those potential external factors are and how you will address them if they do happen to come up. Okay, so let's move into an operating plan and what those key elements are. So an operating plan is basically that. It's a plan on how you're going to operate your business. So again, you're going to have key information and key factors listed in there. Where you're located, a short description of your business, your hours of operation, and you're going to outline rental, ownership, mortgage, or lease details. I definitely agree with you, Steve. We need to really open up the potential of more funding for startups that just have amazing opportunities. that just get overlooked because they can't access funding to get up and started. I see this far too often. Hey, way to go. When you can't find a solution through your plan one, find plan B and start moving forward. That's one thing that I'll say the cannabis industry has been fantastic at in any region is pivoting and adapting. Nothing is ever static when it comes to cannabis. And anybody who is overly locked into a particular plan may get lost in that plan as opposed to seeing what other options are out there to get you to your end goal. Okay, so let's get back into the operating plan. Sorry, but thank you for those comments. Let's look at equipment. What do you need to operate? If you're a cultivator, are you looking at lights? Are you looking at closed loop systems? If you're extracting, are you going for a $300,000 CO2 extractor, or have you found other options? Are you looking at possibly purchasing equipment or location from someone who didn't have as much of a successful rollout, who maybe got partway through a product and pivoted to another industry, or just life happened? There are, not to be negative, but there are a lot of things that are going kind of sideways in the industry right now. But knowing how to kind of grab that as an opportunity for yourself and your own plans could definitely lead to some really great opportunities that you hadn't previously thought about. And if you can open up more disposable funds for other areas of your operation, why not do it? Another piece of information or kind of advice that I give all of our clients is always think about worst case scenario, especially when it comes to funding. Seek that. And then if everything goes wonderfully, beautifully, smoothly, you get your licensing faster than expected, that's additional money in the coffers for areas that you didn't think you necessarily had time or money to venture into immediately. Or you might just want to hold on to that as a contingency fund for unforeseen factors. Okay, now we're going to look at technology requirements and investment needs. What technology will you need to lease or purchase? What are the associated costs involved? And don't forget your maintenance fees for all of your equipment, all of your technology, even your personnel. People need to be cared for and maintained so that you always have the best, strongest, most loyal team possible creating your products. We all feel the love in a product at the end. And then as well, don't forget to take into account environmental compliance. What type of permits, monitoring, and inspections do you require to meet for regulations at both municipal, county, provincial, and federal? And if you're going into a potential EU market, you're looking at the EU for compliance as well. We're not going to get too heavily into the EU talk today. That's a whole nother day. Okay, but also, are you subject to any hazardous waste compliance? Is your light, noise, and smell a consideration in the area that you are? And how are you controlling those? Again, we've talked about GPP reports, and they will be kind of addressed through your license application there. But again, investors and potential people looking to join your team are going to want to know that you've considered these and addressed them. And then next, identify at a local, provincial, federal regulations and laws that you are subject to, and anything pending that you should consider. So again, Health Canada is undergoing a regulatory review right now. Is anything that they're discussing or reviewing potentially going to cause a pivot in your business plan? One big talk right now is the Scientific Review Board releasing information and recommendations pertaining to CBD and how we may see that placed within cannabis or natural health products moving into the future. Is that a detriment to your business, or is that a potentially huge opportunity and change? So again, being up to date on what is happening in an ever-evolving industry is almost a full-time job in itself, but it will only benefit you, your company, and your partners to be on the forefront of knowledge. Okay, we're also going to talk about the people. because people are awesome and people are needed for everything that we do. So identify who the key people in your organization along with external advisors are. So include a description of your management team along with their bios, whether it's cannabis specific or not. We all brought skills to this industry from wherever we came from, and those are not to be disregarded. They actually have a lot of value when starting a new industry and a new company. As well, provide a description of your advisory team. This could include accountants, lawyers, financial advisors, consultants like cannabis license experts, and then as well, who are your key employees? Do you want to call out that you have the greatest master grower in the entire world and a beautiful portfolio? Do you have an HR team that's super focused on attracting amazing customer or employees and retaining them? Is there a celebrity involvement? This is your operational plan, so you're not using this for marketing. So as well, do you have that kind of a backing or story to go along with your organization in an organizational plan? There are restrictions to talking about it out into the world of public and advertising, which we'll get into. Okay, then you're going to have an action plan. So this is going to list your project objectives and the resources required to attain those objectives. So your considerations are, what is your goal and target completion date? How much money will you require to achieve your goals? Do you require real estate or equipment? And what are your hiring needs? And a timeline for all of these as well. Okay. And you always need to take a look at what your risks are, make sure you've done a correct assessment, and that you have contingencies in place in case worst case scenario happens. So what to include in your risk assessment and contingencies is going to be identifying any internal or external events that could cause you to adjust your timetable. So your funding comes through in February and you live in Northern Alberta. Construction is a challenge. You may need to adjust your timetable. Do you have the right leadership and employees in place? Are there any weaknesses? Is there anyone that you're overly dependent on? Those can both be just as detrimental to a business. Could there be delays in the development or the delivery? And what are they? That could be, again, anything from construction holdups to neighbors just being a pain in the bum. It could be a extended review period, which if working with the right members, like CLE, shouldn't be too big of a problem. But, we are at the mercy of Health Canada once they have applications in hand as to the timeline that it's going to take them to review and approve. So make sure you have a plan in place for those. And then, is there anything that could affect your cash flow? And that could be anything. Demands for higher salaries from key employees, difficulty in selling lots. What happens if you have a lot that doesn't meet the specifications? Over destruction. Oh, there's just so many potential things that could affect cash flow. The next could be, will you monitor and mitigate these risks, and how? And then, do you have a plan B or an exit strategy? It is okay to have an exit strategy if that is your plan, but have it clearly defined as to how you will achieve that. Okay, so because we don't have Claudia on today, that was the end of my slides, but you're going to listen to me talk for a little bit longer. I'm just going to leave this up and share the screen with me. Give it a moment to make a little transition, and then we're going to go through a little bit of the marketing details that I had left off today. So when discussing general prohibitions on the promotion of cannabis, there are definitely restrictions here in Canada and anywhere else that cannabis is sold. So we all know that cannabis is a major challenge, as in how Health Canada is restricting and kind of controlling marketing and advertising. This is done to protect youth in Canada, absolutely, and not saying that that is not a valid reason, but general prohibitions on the promotion of cannabis. Unless otherwise authorized under the Cannabis Act, it is prohibited to promote cannabis or a cannabis accessory or any service related to cannabis, and this includes communicating information about price or distribution in a manner that could be appealing to youth, using any testimonials or endorsements, no matter how it's displayed or communicated, using the depiction of a person, character, or animal, whether real or fictional, or presenting it or any of its brand elements in a manner that associates it or the brand element with or evokes a positive or negative emotion about or image of a way of life, such as one that includes glamour, recreation, excitement, vitality, risk, or daring. So, I mean, straight up, those right there are very challenging requirements to have to follow when trying to come up with a way to promote your business and get it out the door. Like you wrote that. Natalie, if you would like to email me directly, I can absolutely get into a little bit more of that. But if you want to look it up yourself on the Euro Pharmacopoeia standards, take a look at, oh gosh, what's it called? Let me ponder that for a second. It's just fallen out of my mind, but I will let you know. We will definitely communicate, Natalie, on EU standards. But yes, you can definitely look them up on the Year-de-Lex. Sorry, that's what it's called. But definitely email me and I'll send you a link so that you can actually review those requirements yourself. They're relatively easy to read through if you have some QA or regulatory experience. Okay, so again, we've already talked about how protecting the health and safety of youth is a top priority for Health Canada. So under the Cannabis Act, the following are prohibited: the promotion of cannabis, a cannabis accessory, or any service related to cannabis in a manner that there are reasonable grounds to believe it could be appealing to young persons. This is a whole challenge on its own. The sale of cannabis or a cannabis accessory in a package or with a label, if there are reasonable grounds to believe that the package or label could be appealing to young persons. That's a challenge. I would like to see someone try and present something that's currently on the market that could be considered appealing to young persons in that package. And then as well, we have the sale of cannabis or cannabis accessory that has an appearance, shape, or other sensory attribute or a function that there's a reasonable grounds to believe it could be appealing to young persons. Again, this is a really challenging thing to navigate. Just this last year, we had 2 LPs apply to have a freezy type product. One was denied, the other one was not. From my investigation into it, they looked like pretty much the same thing with the same names, but one reviewer said no and another said yes. So working with experienced teams to try and navigate those policies and sales amendments when trying to bring new products to market is definitely going to have value and reduce some of that risk. But unfortunately, it can't eliminate that risk 100%. Okay, so let's move on a little bit more into other restrictions. Celebrity affiliated promotions. So any association made between a cannabis product or brand and a celebrity may be non-compliant with promotion, packaging, and labeling prohibitions. This is because these associations could be appealing to young people, appear as an endorsement, they depict a real or fictional person through reference, and they evoke emotions or images of a way of life that could include glamour, recreation, excitement, vitality, risk, or daring, which are all prohibited under the Cannabis Act currently. We'll see what happens with the review, but I really don't think they're going to be touching this section. So while celebrities can be associated with your organization, they cannot be out there promoting it. Where we have seen some celebrity try and enter into the Canadian market and seen pullback. I'm sure you're all aware of Houseplant with Seth Rogen, Wiz Khalifa's KKE. whatever that one was called. I can't remember right now, but it's no longer here as well. And then ones where we're seeing kind of a little bit of wiggle room is Big Bag of Buds. They kind of got around there, but it is a rough association, and they did get some warning levels at Organigram over the original naming of that product and how they branded it. So even that kind of similar text to the logo for Trailer Park Boys, that was definitely a challenge as well, because it's such a well-recognized font in Canada for, just general population within a certain demographic. I'm definitely in that. But, they were able to work with Health Canada to come up with a solution and get that product back on market without the association to the celebrities. So we also have to consider other prohibitions. And yes, Steve and Natalie, you are both right. It is not an easy industry to navigate, but gosh, when you make it through and something goes right, it is probably one of the most fulfilling ones to be in, I gotta say. I've mentioned it in other sessions. I don't think I have today, but I do come from legacy myself, so I do see both sides of the coin, and I do understand the challenges and some of the hesitancy to get on board with all of this. But, we fought for so long to get legalization that playing the game and working with our regulators to try and have them understand more about us and our industry and the product that we provide the world is definitely going to help eliminate stigma at all levels, from regulators right down to consumers. Okay, so let's get into false and misleading promotion. You cannot promote cannabis or cannabis accessories in a manner that is false or misleading or deceptive. This includes promotion that is likely to create any erroneous impression about its characteristics, value, quantity, or composition, strength, concentration, potency, purity, quality, merit, safety, health effects, and health risks. That is probably one of the biggest challenges at consumer level for them to actually understand is our bud tenders aren't being rude or vague in any way. They are just literally not allowed to talk about a lot of the things about plants. And then as well, there is, as we're seeing down in the US, there's a lot of question about various labs and the results they're coming out with when it comes to things like THC levels, terpene profiles. Again, we're new across the world. We're especially new in Canada with under 5 years. Let's see, Steve, sorry to interrupt everyone. I just want to make sure I'm keeping up with the chat in here. So yeah, Steve, there are kind of ways to get around that, but you would have to, you couldn't be working with, I used to work in outdoor technology myself. So actually that conversation makes me super happy. I've worked to, some very big retailers in the outdoor technology world. If you're at an age-gated event where you have a 19 plus event or a 19 plus venue, there are ways to advertise. But if it's a family-focused event, absolutely not. We also have to look at, not to compare things to the alcohol industry, we're completely different, but there are parallels to how the world has become so pro-alcohol from prohibition. 100 years ago, you couldn't buy a bottle of beer. Now we have the Molson Indy. So again, things take time and we will get there eventually. But again, trying to work with regulators as much as possible, staying on their good side so that they put more weight to what we have to say when it comes to changes and adapting and growing and evolving is definitely valuable. Okay, so next we have the promotion using foreign media. You cannot promote in any way that is prohibited in Part 1 of what we talked about today, as well as the Cannabis Act, a cannabis, a cannabis accessory, a service related to cannabis, or a brand element of any of those things in any communication that originates outside Canada. So we did see this happening a bit, is companies going along, states close to the Canadian border that maybe had broadcast across the border here to try and get around some of those advertising rules. No, No, they know, and they're smart, and they will call you on it. I mean, calculated risks are calculated risks. If you put a potential fine into your budget when it comes to a marketing plan, that is up to you. Maybe you don't get called on it, but I don't want to advise anyone to break rules. Just, especially as a startup, it's not worth risking your license that you've worked so hard to get. So just to kind of top up that promotion using forwarding media, that includes publications published outside of Canada and any broadcasts that originate outside of Canada. Again, if you'd like more information on that, we will be rehosting a marketing segment coming up with someone who actually does this full time other than just myself. But as well, we have considerations around the sponsorship of anything as a cannabis organization. So you cannot display, refer to, or otherwise use directly or indirectly a promotion that is used in the sponsorship of a person, entity, event, activity, or facility, or any of the following: a brand element of cannabis, of a cannabis accessory, or of a service related to cannabis, and the name of that person, or the name of a person that sells, produces, distributes cannabis, sells or distributes a cannabis accessory, or provides a service related to cannabis. So again, I know it would be great to be able to, sponsor, I don't know, a ping pong team of full-grown adults. We have beer leagues, so it'd be nice to have a smoking league, but again, it can't be sponsored by us as companies within this industry. You're going to run afoul of Health Canada there. Okay, we also cannot name a facility. While we have the Rogers Centre, we cannot have, the Loud Plug Arena. Unfortunately, we're not there yet, but again, working with regulators, we hope to see some of these change in the years to come. But to be specific to what Health Canada says, you cannot display any of the following on a facility used for a sports or cultural event or activity: a brand name of cannabis, a cannabis accessory, or a service related to cannabis; the name of a person that produces, sells, or distributes cannabis, sells or distributes a cannabis accessory, or provides a service related to cannabis. And I didn't talk about this today, but when I say cannabis, I mean any product containing cannabis. That is our dried flower, our pre-rolls, our topicals, our concentrates, our edibles, our beverages, and any other things that I forgot. And then accessories could be anything from rolling papers. Sorry, raw, we're not going to have the next raw games anytime soon here in Canada. It could also mean a jewel, filters. There's, dab rigs. There's so much out there nowadays. And then the next restriction is inducements. So unless authorized under the Cannabis Act, it is prohibited for a person that sells cannabis or a cannabis accessory to, and you do any of the following: provide or offer to provide cannabis or cannabis accessory if it is provided or offered to be provided without monetary consideration or in consideration of the purchase of anything or service or the provision of a service. So you can't say, buy this Pax and we'll give you some cannabis, is an example of that. So you also cannot, it's prohibited for a person that sells cannabis or a cannabis accessory to provide or offer to provide anything that is not cannabis or a cannabis accessory, including a right to participate in a game, draw, lottery, or contest. So again, one of those like in-store promotions, you can't be, let's just pick any XYZ LP. They can't run an in-house or in dispensary or in farm gate promotion that says, for everyone who purchases, you can get a chance to win tickets to whatever concert or game that's out there, win Leafs tickets. Unfortunately, those are restricted because they are seen as an inducement to purchase your product. And then as well, it is prohibited to provide or offer to provide any service if it is provided or offered to be provided as an inducement for the purchase of cannabis or a cannabis accessory. So basically, we're selling ourselves on our merits and our merits only. And trying to get those merits out is challenging with the restrictions that we have. So again, a person that sells cannabis or a cannabis accessory must not provide inducements that might encourage non-users to begin using cannabis. That's self-explanatory. Peer pressure is never cool. And then users or non-users to engage in excessive or heavy consumption. So we cannot encourage people to get higher than they intended to get. Start low, go slow. Stick to our kind of catchphrases now. So some examples of things that could be considered inducements. For an example of a free accessory for the purchase of cannabis or cannabis as a bonus in any purchase. Yes, Natalie, you're correct there. But some kind of examples are a free 1 gram pre-roll sample. Not allowed. No free rolling papers with the purchase of cannabis product X. Yeah, you can't do that, Natalie, unfortunately. I knew where you're going with that, though. But yeah, there's no buy one, get one frees. There's no get a free pack of rolling papers if you buy this particular product. Now, there's nothing that says you can't, after a product purchase is finished, regardless of the LP within that store, tossing in a pack of papers. There's nothing that says you can't do that. The purchase is completed, and in no way can that be construed as, I'm going to give you this so that you buy something else. And then you also cannot offer any buy one, get one frees. So, and even a nominal amount of monetary consideration could be considered an inducement in non-compliance. Okay, so there is an exemption that has come out. You are allowed to provide intra-industry samples. Speaking particularly here in Ontario, I've benefited from this quite a bit in the last 6 months of my own, especially when it comes to bud tenders. For bud tenders to stay on top of everything that's available in a store and every new trend, let's face it, they'd be spending their entire paychecks at their place of work. Life is expensive. They cannot do that. So here in Ontario, LPs are now allowed to provide samples for educational purposes in educational environments. So that is nice. That is allowing bud tenders access to a new and wider variety of products so that they can be giving more educated personal experience reviews. So at the federal level, what the regulation says is license holders that provide samples to a person authorized to sell cannabis, such as a provincially or territorially authorized retailer, they are exempt from the prohibition of inducement. However, the retailer may not provide samples to consumers. They can talk about how much they love the sample, but they cannot give that sample. Okay, so cannabis samples must comply with other applicable rules under the Cannabis Act and regulations, so ensuring that it is properly packaged and labeled, and that that sample has followed your GPP practices. Make sure that you are aware of the province or territory's additional legislation. Each province has the ability to include their own regulations around cannabis sales and inducements. So they can't go softer than the federal regulation, but they can tighten those up. Let's see. I have an example for the games. So some examples for non-compliant inducement under gifts and contests. We could be looking at things such as win tickets to concert with the purchase of cannabis product XYZ, win a free t-shirt with the purchase of rolling papers, or get a free t-shirt with the purchase of XYZ. Not okay. So as well, discounts, rebates, premiums, and bonuses is its own little section under the Cannabis Act and guidance documents. It's a challenging one to talk about, but to kind of at a high level, I'm just going to read off exactly what they have to say. So it is the responsibility of the person that sells cannabis to ensure that the price of cannabis or a cannabis accessory cannot be an inducement prohibited under the Cannabis Act. Factors to consider whether an inducement has been provided or offered to be provided includes the value of any discount or rebate, the location where the discount or rebate is displayed, such as inside or outside a store, the expiry of a discount or rebate, such as for limited time only, and the context and nature of any associated promotions. Now, we're allowed loyalty programs. but you have to be careful about how they are rolled out and what you're offering under that loyalty program. So benefits obtained through a program could be free pre-rolls, becoming okay. So no free pre-rolls, no free cannabis. Don't do that. But that would be considered an inducement as well. A stamp on a card based on the visits or purchases resulting in a free cannabis product, not okay. A program that allows for the exchange of points for cannabis products or accessories are also not great. We're seeing a lot of them out there, but people are getting very creative as to how that goes, and kind of taking on some risks on their own. Again, we may see some changes during this regulatory review that's upcoming. Okay, so delivery, service, and shipping is also controlled under marketing and sales. And I just lost my place. Sorry, everyone. So the first person who gets to name a sports arena after a cannabis company in Canada, I will bow down to you. That will be an amazing day for our industry. That really shows where stigma has really dropped off at that point. Okay, so a person that sells cannabis or cannabis accessories may offer a delivery service to its customers, subject to provincial and territorial legislation applicable to that jurisdiction. Delivery service may not be provided or offered to be provided as an inducement for the purchase of cannabis or cannabis accessories. So you can't say, buy this particular half quarter and it's free delivery, but you could offer free delivery to anyone who makes any type of purchase, or if you want to set it to a specific dollar amount, delivery fee $5 under $50, free delivery over $50, and other than that, you've left it to the decision of the consumer. That could be okay. Display of cannabis and cannabis accessories are also highly regulated. We won't get into that. You've all experienced that to a certain level. And also in Canada, as a consultant for people who are looking to innovate and bring cool things into the industry, I've heard of a million great ideas that unfortunately don't meet the regulatory guidelines at this time, but would be cool to see come online as these rules eventually change. But self-service displays and dispensing devices. You cannot sell or distribute cannabis or a cannabis accessory by means of a display that allows for self-service or by means of a dispensing device. So while it'd be super cool to have like a pop machine that pops out half quarters, not allowed. Even if it's within your age-gated store, not going to happen anytime soon. Now that doesn't apply to replacement parts of an accessory. So say you have a big population of consumers that are buying, I don't know, PAX or Mighty or some other kind of vaping product that's out there. Sorry, I'm just thinking PAX because I have a PAX display on my desk right now. You could technically have a dispensing thing that has the extra coils and replacement pieces for that, or pipe screens. It's just the cannabis and cannabis accessories themselves that are restricted. So again, that could lead to some interesting kind of developments. So again, we're not allowed to make any health claims or cosmetic benefits. So currently, you're not allowed to say things like pain reduction, reducing anxiety, reducing inflammation, or sleep aid, regardless of whether or not we feel or know that these things may be true with particular product. Don't do it. Examples of cosmetic claims could include, but are not limited to, improves skin elasticity, soothes dry skin, reduces signs of aging, skin brightening, and smooths wrinkles. Those are all cosmetic claims. We are not allowed to make those on cannabis products. Yeah, it's really sad. Cannabis topicals are awesome. One of my favorite categories out there. But we wait for Health Canada's guidance on what we can tell the general public is true about what we believe. And yes, under the scientific review, we are expecting to see some of that become allowed under CBD specifically. Hopefully in the next 12 to 24 months, we'll get some guidance on that. What they are proposing for CBD and potential crossover for natural health products would be revolutionary, but is also going to take a lot of maneuvering to make sure all industries are on board and that everyone's aware of how to handle those evolutions. Again, we got to be careful about promotions that include health claims, as they're considered a compliance and enforcement priority for Health Canada. In particular, health claims being made for serious diseases such as depression, addiction, cancer, among others, that are referenced as Schedule A.1, I believe, of the Food and Drug Act, which here in Canada is known as the FDA, are the highest risks and absolutely strictly prohibited. Do not take the risk, is what I'm going to tell you. Now, we have seen companies getting very creative with how they are labeling products or giving a product a name so that certain conclusions can be drawn from the name of a product without actually making any claims. Again, calculated risk involved. One that we all know, there is no combining alcoholic beverages, tobacco products, or vaping product with cannabis-infused items unless it falls under that concentrate category and is cannabis-specific and doesn't contain any tobacco. Okay, I'm just going to get into flavors. Flavors are challenging. Again, because a lot of them could be seen as appealing to children, although we're all grown-ups and we all love candy too. Just got to make sure you're watching that. So specifically, flavors could include that could come up as risks or things that taste like candies are very popular gums for children. Dessert flavors such as ice cream, cookies, or chocolate. Soft drink flavors such as cola, orange soda, cream soda, and root beer, or energy drinks. Well, I don't think anybody should ever drink an energy drink. They are quite popular amongst people under the age of 19 or 18, because we're looking across the country. So those are going to put a risk into whether or not you remain compliant. It's also one of the reasons why we say things like hibiscus flavored. No child's going to pick up a hibiscus flavored anything, as far as I know, unless they just picked it up because they thought the package was nice, which again, doesn't happen a whole lot in cannabis. I think that kind of covers the majority of kind of what you need to be aware of as a high level for marketing and advertising. Again, we are expecting to see some changes to this moving forward, but we could look at a few things in the last 2 minutes of this episode of things that we've seen as trends due to these challenges. One would be mass destruction of products. This may be attributed to consumers being flooded by choice, and LPs have little opportunity to build brand awareness and at a consumer level. It could also be a result of not doing proper education and industry and consumer research. Are you providing something that somebody just doesn't want? Are you providing something that there's already a million of? I say this all the time. We don't need another Jean Guy on the market here in Canada. I'm not sure how many variations of ICC we could use, but there is opportunity to bring things into the market that are not here yet. We know that there is a bazillion cultivars out there and amazing ones that are not currently available. So are you filling a gap that way? Are you providing a superior pink kush to what's out there and a superior price point to what's out there? That's a very hard market to get into. Pinks in Canada, we have high standards. Another challenge is evolving consumer preferences. Always look to what's next. Being ahead of trends, always in any industry, is going to kind of lead you to be an industry leader as opposed to an industry follower, which is what we always want. Nobody wants to be playing catch up. There was a lot of negative feedback about pre-rolls when they first hit the market, saying nobody was going to want them, blah, blah. They're quickly gaining as top category within concentrates. And then infused pre-rolls, well, we all know how well those are selling right now. And those companies that were first to market with them have really established their reputation amongst consumers, and everyone else is kind of playing catch up. And again, with the challenges to getting the word out about your new product, do you want to play catch up or do you want to be ahead of the game? So always looking to what's next is a wonderful thing. And then defining your business and clearly speaking to that at all levels, whether it's your sales reps going out and dressing a certain way, having branded apparel on. Are you looking at the potential of having a farm gate to build local loyalty to your LP and your brands and expanding outwards from there? Not every province allows for farm gates, but those that do, I find it's underutilized right now. It is scary to get back into another application process after you've finally gotten to this stage. But again, it is something that could lead to some real brand loyalty. Again, what is something that consumers talk about all the time? Over packaging. Can you come up with a product that is going to address that? Sustainable, biodegradable, ocean recycled plastics. I mean, there's lots of ways to kind of do that. I know as a personal consumer, I try not to buy anything in black plastic because I live in the GTA and we can't recycle black plastic, which is really sad because there's some wonderful brands that are out there in black plastic. But yeah, that's kind of my 2 cents on marketing. Like I said, we will definitely have a specialist in the coming weeks. Unfortunately, she just wasn't able to come in today and wanted to ensure that you guys have the best presentation possible. So I think I've covered everyone's questions. If you like, I can stay online for a couple minutes if anybody wants to pop a last question or two into the chat. But we have reached the 1 hour point now. So I'll give it 30 seconds if anybody wants to type in a quick, yo, I have a question. Otherwise, please feel free to reach out to me at info@cannabislicenseexperts.com. You can also find me on LinkedIn or any of my colleagues on LinkedIn. We're very active, some of them more than I am. I'm not a huge social media user, but I will always check. And yes, Natalie, I agree with you. Cannabis should only be in glass. But it is very expensive to get glass across the country, so I do understand why LPs will choose bags or other options. And I will say, I've gotten some great flower in Mylar. I will take Mylar in glass over plastic at any time. Just static cling makes it really hard to get those cannabinoids off of that plastic at times. We all remember back in the day with those little Ziploc baggies and all the good stuff was stuck to the outside of them or the inside of them. But okay, I think we've addressed everyone's questions that want to put them into the group today. So again, thank you all for joining us for these 4 weeks. If you were able to make all 4 weeks, please shoot me an email so I make sure that you are receiving that discount for attending all sessions. Please feel free to reach out with questions, concerns. If you've enjoyed these 4 sessions, we would really appreciate a Google review, but it is never demanded or expected. And thank you for all your time that you have spent with me in the last 4 weeks. And I really do appreciate everyone working so hard to create an industry that would excel and bring, a lot more flexibility and joy to the world and to our jobs on a daily basis. So again, thank you very much. And any questions or concerns, quotes or consults, feel free to reach out to me at info@cannabislicenseexperts.com. Thank you so much and have a wonderful evening.